Alright everyone, let's have a good clean race. No wrecking the first turn one, please.
Try not to run each other over here.
Idiot!
Dude, really? Come on, man. You need to run one.
The hell do you call that?
Unbelievable, man.
Swear to God, you guys don't race one drivers.
Come on, 11.
What are you thinking, dude?
You're an idiot, you know that?
I'm not even the one who's idiot.
Are you serious, dumbass? Serious, dude?
Shut up, you stupid redneck.
What is wrong with you people?
Jesus Christ, rookie.
So, how do you get past the Rookie Series? Sometimes it seems almost impossible. Seems every week a new driver will appear on the forums and claim that it is impossible. Which doesn't really make any sense, because the upper series are full of drivers who also started as rookie. They must have done something right. What are other rookies doing wrong? Here are the most common rookie mistakes I see drivers make. They try to drive through crashes without slowing down. They don't really see what's happening in front of them. They haven't learned how to recognize danger before it's too late. And they try to race as close and hard as they can to other rookies. And because of these mistakes, they don't avoid the wrecks, they can't maintain a decent safety rating, and they blame everyone but themselves for it. But here's the hard truth. While you can't avoid every wreck, you can avoid most of them. And if you're not avoiding most of them, then you're at fault for being stuck in rookies. In fact, if you can't normally finish a race without getting crashed out, then you're not ready for the next level. That's the hard truth. But here's the soft truth. It's not as hard as it seems. You just have to adjust your approach to racing, make accident avoidance your highest priority, and correct the 4 mistakes I just described. And I promise, when you master these habits, you'll become a more effective racer, not some sissy Sunday driver. We'll come back to that point near the end of the video. All of the examples you're about to see come from a project I conducted a couple seasons ago, where I drove my overall I rating down below 400, began in the very bottom splits of the Street Stock series, and then worked my way back up again. I drove 19 races, won 2 of them, averaged a top 5 finish, and my safety rating never fell below 3.5 on the D-license scale. That's not going to make me any sort of oval racing hero, but it's more than good enough to get out of rookies. So I know it can be done. Let's start with a little quiz. Here's a pretty bad driver, and you've probably seen someone like him. He's been on iRacing for less than a week, and he's hopping into live races before he's even learned how to control the car. In this race, he's already managed to put himself into the wall a couple of times, and taken some serious damage. So he's way off the pace, can't drive a straight line anymore, and yet he won't get off the track and get out of everyone's way. He's a complete hazard to all the other drivers, and you can see how they're having to dodge around him. Someone's bound to hit him sooner or later, and yes, there it is. Pow! The yellow car nails him hard. You knew it was going to happen. Now here's the question. Who do you blame for this? Because if you're thinking to yourself that the red car is totally at fault here, then you're wrong. It's yellow's fault. And the purpose of this video is to convince you that it's yellow's fault. Once you understand why it's yellow's fault, you'll be ready to begin mastering the Rookie Series. Here's the point. No matter how bad the other drivers are, even if they're as bad as red, you can avoid them most of the time. And when you can't avoid them, then succeeding in rookies is easy. So how do you avoid drivers like red? There are 3 basic rules. You anticipate trouble, you recognize the trouble as soon as it begins, and you slow down for trouble. Let's see how yellow failed to do these things. Here's yellow's view of this crash. As we come onto the back straight, no one's in front of us, and we can see all the way down the track into the next corner. That's the first rule of anticipation. Look as far down the track as possible and be scanning for trouble all the time. And already, we're 500 yards away from the next corner, but already we can see the red car down on the apron. Does that look right? That doesn't look right to me. This is something to worry about. Now as we get halfway to turn 3, red has come back on the track, moving slowly. Should we ignore this and just drive normally? No, we should not. We have to recognize that we're going to catch him with a large difference between our speeds, and that's always dangerous. So as we approach turn 3, we should be rolling off the throttle and slowing down. This will give us a little more time to assess the situation, to see where red is going, and where we have a clear path around him. But most importantly, I can't emphasize this enough, it's easier to maneuver when you're not at full speed. When you go into a corner at full speed, you're committed, and if you try to change your line or get on the brakes quickly, you'll probably spin. But if you slow down before you enter the corner, it's easier to make your car go onto a different line if you need to. And right now, it looks like it'd be nice to keep our options open. Yellow doesn't do any of this. He stays at full throttle into the corner, guessing that he can hit that small gap on the low line, and he realizes his mistake about 1 second before impact. It's too late. Let's go over that again. This should not have been a surprise to Yellow, because if he was watching ahead of him, he had a full 10 seconds to recognize the danger. There was room to steer around the red car if he was going slow enough to maneuver his own car, but he didn't respond to anything he could see in front of him. He committed himself to driving normally when he needed to make an adjustment, and now he's out of the race, all because he was unwilling to slow up and give away a second or two. And that's how you remain a rookie. Would it surprise you to learn that Yellow has never gotten his I rating above 700 on either road or oval? It shouldn't. You just saw why. Right now, let's talk more about just slowing down, because this is the basic mistake I see rookie drivers make, over and over again. It's amazing to watch. Time after time, drivers will just run straight into a wreck that is right in front of them, and that they could have driven around. But they won't slow down. They stay on the throttle and try to drive through a wreck like Han Solo through the asteroid field.
Never tell me the odds.
And this is what usually happens. Or this. And then they swear at those other drivers for crashing when they should be blaming themselves for not reacting. Slowing down does 4 things for you. It allows time for the situation to improve. A car may spin out of the way and a lane open up that wasn't there half a second ago. It allows you a few extra fractions of a second to assess the situation and make a better decision. You get a more accurate idea of which way the other cars are moving. Also, especially on the short track, if you do hit a car, you might get away with little damage and be able to keep racing. But most importantly, it gives you more control over your own car. At full speed, you're much less maneuverable than you are if you're going a little slower. At slower speeds, it's much easier to point the car in the direction you need to go. Let's take a look at another wreck, and you'll see that the guys who slow down survive, and the guys who keep going mostly don't. Number 10 is a lap down, has damage, and he's well off the pace. And you can see the leaders are coming up behind him in a pack, so they're going to overtake him all at once. Number 10 starts to go high to let them by, just like he should, and then he gets loose and suddenly comes down into the second place car, and now we get a huge wreck. Some of the guys behind get through, some of them don't. So let's take a look at who survived and who didn't, and see if we can figure out why. First off, poor number 12. Sorry, but he just never had a chance. I said you could avoid most wrecks, but some you can't unless you stop racing altogether. So it's a shame, but all you can do is accept it and try again in the next race. Behind 12 is the orange number 4 car. 4 does the right thing as he responds immediately and gets on the brakes. You'll see how he starts to understeer up toward the wall and then recovers to go low where there's more room. He could not have done that if he was still on the throttle. So that's a nice job of saving yourself, and Orange is rewarded with a second place finish. Yellow number 5, on the other hand, even though he's farther back and has more time to react, just keeps the throttle down and is completely committed to his line as soon as he turns the wheel. If he'd slowed down enough, he might have been able to follow Orange through on the low line, but he never gave himself a chance to do it. In fact, if he's going to drive like this, he might as well just crank the wheel to the right. The result's going to be the same. The blue number 13 also holds his throttle, even though he can clearly see the tire smoke up ahead and ought to know what that means. He makes it through, but watch carefully. You see what I see? Because Blue's at full speed, he can't actually dodge anything. The track just happens to have opened up for him as he arrives on the scene. Notice how he barely misses the 12 car. Blue probably thinks he did some great driving to get through this wreck, but he didn't. He just got lucky this time. Behind Blue is the black number 3. Just like White, Black can see the tire smoke and he does react, a little, but he's dropped only about 5 miles per hour below full speed for the corner, which is still too fast. He can't change his line either, and is stuck in that middle lane when he sees number 10 in his way. So he crashes too. Finally, there's me. To tell the truth, I've been anticipating a crash for several laps now, just because that's what usually happens when rookies race close like this. So far, everyone's done a great job, but now I see the tire smoke, and I immediately recognize that this is the big crash I've been expecting. So I lift early and start to brake a little. This gives me a chance to maneuver around whatever is about to appear in front of me. All my attention is now up on the left corner of my windscreen, trying to pick up as soon as I can. Where are the crashing cars? Where can I drive? Where is it blocked? When I see where 10 is, I'm able to go all the way down onto the apron to avoid him. Now I see 2 more cars down there, so I keep slowing down. Remember how the blue car barely missed number 12? Because I'm going slower, I get around him easily, even though he's come back onto the track. And only when it's clear do I jump on the gas again. Yes, I've lost contact with the remaining cars in front of me, but I've also just gained 4 positions, and I'm still running. So what did we see here? Well, hon, you really ought to listen when someone tells you the odds. 3 guys tried to hold their speed and couldn't maneuver at all, and only one of them was lucky enough to find enough space to survive. The 2 who slowed down were able to find the open space and had enough control to put their cars there. Those are the odds, and if you don't slow down...
May the odds be ever in your favor.
No, they won't be.